Okay, so welcome to section 10.3 gas exchange. So this part is just mainly storytelling again. Okay, so yeah, just follow through the story and you'll be fine. Okay, so a quick recap from 10.2. Okay, you have already known, right? No, please let the beatboxer ask. Right, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, your bronchus, bronchioli, and then the air ends up at the alveoli. Right, so it's what happens after that, or how do the cells get their oxygen, that kind of question. Okay, so first one, okay, deoxygenated blood entering lungs has a lower concentration of oxygen and higher concentration of carbon dioxide than air inside the alveolus. Okay, so linking back to your knowledge in transport in men, right? Remember not, your left is right, right is left, right? I mean, okay, now the screen is reversed, but so it's other side. In the right side of your heart down there carry deoxygenated blood, correct? So right atrium, right ventricle, and then it goes up into the pulmonary artery. So after that, from the pulmonary artery, okay, it will then branch into the arterioles, then capillaries. So this is here, over here, what you see over here, okay, it's this capillaries. Okay, so we establish first. Okay, so this part, can you see where I'm pointing? Okay, I'm trying, yep, this part. Okay, this whole, this whole part here. Okay, yep, here. Okay, it basically has a low concentration of oxygen, high concentration of carbon dioxide than air inside the alveolus. Okay, the yellow part where you see. Got it? Okay, then the second point to establish is then very simple. Okay, carbon dioxide from the blood, okay, will diffuse into the alveolus and then is exhaled out of your respiratory system. Right, so that means your carbon dioxide takes the reverse route lah. Alveolus, bronchioli, bronchus, trachea. Right, then after that go where? Larynx, pharynx, then nasal cavity, then come out of your nose. Okay, so then, okay, for carbon dioxide, that part we settle already. Now, number 3, okay, can you take your highlighter, highlight up the number 3, this point. Okay, so at the same time, oxygen in the alveolus dissolves in the thin film of moisture. Can you see the blue color part? Okay, I'm using my mouse to highlight this to you. Okay, oxygen will dissolve in the thin film of moisture first and then diffuse into the blood. Okay, can? So very important, dissolve, then diffuse. Dissolve, then diffuse. I say 2 times already, okay? So make sure that you get the steps right. Okay, then it's finally from the capillary transport to the heart by the pulmonary vein. Okay? Can? So from the capillary, right, you will go where? You will go into a venue, pulmonary venue, then go pulmonary vein. Okay, so this is where the two systems interact lah, between your respiratory system and your circulatory system. Got it? Okay, so now we go back to transport in men already. Now, before Che moves on, okay, into the part on your notes, I want you to write this down. Okay, so pause the screen here first, copy this down. Now, the oxygen and carbon dioxide concentration gradient, correct? That means you want the air to keep exchanging, right? So you get the blood can get oxygen, okay, and the carbon dioxide can diffuse into the alveolus. So how? How is it maintained? Okay, number 1, continuous flow of blood through the capillaries, and number 2, the air, right, move in and out is caused by breathing. So there's a continuum of air going in and out. Okay, so please pause this video right at the side first before we continue on with the lecture. Okay, so if so, then I'm just going to carry on. Okay, so yeah, if not, yeah, hit pause. Okay, now moving my avatar back down. Okay, so we're now at the bottom of your page 14. So when the oxygen, correct, after it diffuses into the bloodstream, right, it combines with hemoglobin in the red blood cells to form oxyhemoglobin. Okay, so this reaction is reversible and blood will then travel through the circulatory system lah. Can? So okay, so oxygen go where? It will go into your red blood cell, combine with hemoglobin, form oxyhemoglobin. Then your red blood cell will all suddenly become bright red in color. So oxygenated red blood cells are bright red in color. If it's not oxygenated, that means they give off the oxygen to the cells already. Then yeah, it will just be hemoglobin. It's a more bluish, dullish red kind of color. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, now simple. So you know, right, like we crack back into your transport in men, right? So after the blood from the capillary goes into the pulmonary vein, then goes into the left atrium, right, the left ventricle, go to the aorta, go to the rest of the body, right? So blah blah blah, arteries again, arterioles, and then finally it comes to capillaries. Okay, so then here, on page 15. So when blood passes through oxygen poor tissues, okay, oxyhemoglobin will release oxygen which diffuse through the capillary walls to reach the tissue cells. Okay, because right, the red blood cell full of oxygen, right, blah blah, they come to the area here, right? Can you see these are the cells that are oxygen poor, right? Because respire, right, respiration happen now, right? So they use it to release energy. Then oxygen concentration there will be low. So in this case, oxygen here will be high, right? Move from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So oxygen will diffuse through the capillary walls to reach the tissue cells. Okay, then at the same time, right, carbon dioxide that's being produced from respiration in the cells got a lot, right? So how they produce will diffuse, okay, back into the blood plasma. Okay, the blood plasma is here. Recap, okay, your transport and man knowledge, right? Plasma, red blood cell, white blood cell, platelets. So the carbon dioxide will come into the plasma. Okay, the oxygen will from the oxyhemoglobin in the red blood cell diffuse, okay, into the cells. So the cells have gotten their oxygen that they wanted from respiration. At the same time, carbon dioxide, okay, it will go back into the plasma already. Can? Alrighty, now the last two steps, okay, it may seem a little bit complicated, but okay, calm down, I'll take it slow with you. Now, listen, okay, when carbon dioxide is in the plasma, correct, it doesn't just stay there as, it doesn't just stay there as carbon dioxide. So there are two steps, okay? Now, I'm moving my avatar up here to help you. So first, okay, this one, carbon dioxide is converted into carbonic acid inside red blood cells. Can you highlight carbonic acid first, please? So by the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. For this enzyme, okay, if you know, good. Don't know, never mind. Okay, I'm leaving it for those who might who wants to know. Okay, so carbon dioxide convert to carbonic acid inside the red blood cell. So as you can see from the picture, okay, in your notes, right? Carbon dioxide, okay, enter plasma, right? Okay, it goes into the red blood cell, convert to carbonic acid first. As you can see here, H2CO3. Okay, I mean they show in the ionic form, but H2CO3, okay, by the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. Then, okay, carbonic acid, right, will then dissociate into hydrogen carbonate ions. That's step 2. Can you see over here? So H2CO3, right, it will dissociate into the ions. Then the hydrogen carbonate ions here will then diffuse out of the plasma. Can? So 2 steps. Convert to carbonic acid inside the red blood cell, dissociate into hydrogen carbonate ions, go out into the plasma. Okay, then the carbon dioxide will stay in this form until they reach back into the alveolus again, right? So they reach other parts of the body, give the oxygen, the carbon dioxide come in, travel all the way. When it goes back into the lungs again, we reach the last step here. Okay, so back in the lungs, right? The hydrogen carbonate ions will convert back into carbonic acid, okay, and then into carbon dioxide. Okay, so when back in the lungs, the reverse will happen. So then the carbon dioxide will diffuse out of the blood capillaries back into the alveoli and then release back into the air when you breathe out. Then the whole cycle will just keep repeating again. Okay, so that's it for section 10.3. Can? So in summary, right, this is the, as you can see from the big diagram, right, this actually shows you what happens in one alveolus. Okay, that there's carbon dioxide. I mean, in your notes, it shows reverse, but generally that's the basic idea going from the red blood cells in general. Carbon dioxide is actually diffusing this way, and then meanwhile from here, oxygen is actually dissolved in the moisture lining of moisture, and then diffuse into the your blood capillaries. Okay, if you don't understand, need to repeat, you feel free to stop the video, go back and play again. Okay, let this story sink in. It's not a long one. If not, other than that, we have reached quick check 10.3. Okay, so once again, please pause. Okay, go and try the questions first. It's not long. It will only take you 5 minutes. I don't think it will take you 10. Okay, only when you're done, then press play. Okay, please pause. Okay, welcome back. All right, so this is assuming that you have already done your work. Okay, come, let's check through the answers. I want to make sure that you got to do coming back. I'm really going to check your notes. Okay, now, so it shows, right, okay, the figure shows a section of alveolus, blah, blah, blah. Right, they say oxygen is transferred from the interior of each alveolus into the bloodstream. So they ask you to name and define the process. So name, the process is diffusion. Okay, so then what's the definition? Okay, movement of oxygen molecules. If you are, want to apply it to context from a region of higher concentration, that's the alveolus, to lower concentration, which is the blood. Okay, so you can see how this applies to context. So diffusion now is just no longer just a definition that you vomit out, but you see how you actually apply, okay, into a question context. Okay, can? Okay, number 2, correct? They asked you, describe 2 characteristics of the alveoli, right, that enable fast transfer of oxygen to the blood. So any 2 it's well supplied with blood capillaries, thin film of moisture on the alveolar surface, alveolar and capillary walls are 1 cell thick. So in this case, only ask you to describe the characteristics. They never ask you to explain a whole long story. So any 2. Okay. Now C and D. Explain how oxygen travels from an alveoli, okay, into a red blood cell in the lungs. So very simply, oxygen first dissolve into the thin film of moisture, then diffuse from the alveolus into a red blood cell. There's no the here. Okay, please ignore this in the answer. And finally, D. Carbon dioxide is transported as hydrogen carbonate ions, okay, from tissues to the lungs, which actually emphasize, right, carbonic acid first in the red blood cell and then become hydrogen carbonate ions in the plasma to be transferred. The pictures on page, on page 15, right, that whole diagram there is actually meant to help you to see, okay? You don't worry about, must I know the whole chemical formula, ionic, all this? No need. It's just carbonic acid, then become hydrogen carbonate ions. The pictures are just there to illustrate this process to you. Okay, so with that, cool. Okay, you guys are done with this section. Okay, I believe it's a short one. Can move on to the next section already. We are almost there. Okay, well done.